Hello, wonderful interpreters. Thank you again for tuning into my video. So at this point, we're going to be talking about LNI's decision and how they will announce a decision in the next week or couple of weeks at this point. Those of you that have been following the events since last year when we went to Olympia and the amendments that we were able to introduce to the bill, now LNI has to make a decision as to how to procure interpreters and how to deal with the changes that are supposed to happen or no changes. And so with that said, we do have some information, some new information, and so LNI will come up with a decision in the next week or couple of weeks. But what we know now is that the decision they will come up with and announce officially, it's going to be a partial decision. So it's not going to be a decision that will just be permanent and that's it. No, from what we hear and from what we know now, it looks like they will be dividing this into a couple of, implementations. So what we hear is that they will announce this partial decision. We don't know what that is. Nobody knows. They will make it public once it happens, and then they'll do feedback sessions again, like the focus groups that they did for interpreters and providers. They're going to be doing that just to hear back from people to see if they agree with the decision, to see if they like the changes, if they suggest something. And so we want you to know that's something that's going to happen. This is only a partial decision and nobody knows what it is. And just remember that whatever decisions they make, they will be implemented in 2020. So with that said, why don't we do a refresher of exactly, what was accomplished in Olympia and how LNI is basing whatever decisions they're going to make or announce. And so I'm going to, close this a little bit to make it a little informational. Okay, so what is it that LNI is going to be basing their decision on? Okay, so let's go ahead again, right, and go to this picture. You remember when we went to Olympia? Oops, I can't see myself, so I'm going to have to float on top right here real quick. And go to View and float on top. Okay, good. So those of you that went to Olympia, you remember that, when Bill 6245 was going to pass, we went there. We didn't agree with some of the elements of the bill, mainly the part where we would have to be contracting with, at the time, CTS Language Link. We all agree on that. We don't want a scheduling system. So as you see, the pictures right here, I was there, Alejandro Di Tola, Juan Pablo. A lot of people went there. Most of you went there to support. It was a great effort, so we were able to say, hey, we didn't have the time to sit down. We were not completely informed. So why not take some time and amend this bill? Because at that point, that's the only thing that we could do. So we actually could have a conversation and protect everybody and everybody's job, right? And because of that effort, we got meetings with Senator Saldana, which was the main sponsor of the bill. And so this is a handout, and I talk about this in my other videos, but this is way shorter, just a refresher. This is a handout that Senator Saldana had, and this is the idea that they had as to how the LNI system works. They say here LNI pays for injured workers, and they pay either to the independent contractor directly or to 116 language agencies as of 2016. Then these agencies would pay the independent contractor. LNI at the time was paying 86 cents a minute or $51.60 an hour. And then in at least 65% of the appointments, a language agency does the scheduling and billing. And then the part right here that we had some conversations about was they thought that the interpreter usually keeps $25 an hour. Now that word usually, has a meaning, because it doesn't say always, but usually it's more than common. You know what I mean? So that was just not completely accurate. So we were able to inform them, look, agencies have their part. When you refer to an agency, you may be referring to language links. CTS, big agencies, we only have small group provider numbers in the LNI system, and most of these group provider numbers, or small agencies like we call them in the Hispanic world, they provide a good quality service to interpreters that don't like scheduling, don't like billing, and cannot get their own patients. So, I think we need to, sit down, and that's what we said back then, and look at a way where people don't get hurt and we don't lose our jobs and we don't end up making $38 an hour instead of $51.60. So what did we do? We were able to pass, amendments. We introduced amendments by talking to these important politicians. And so the first one is that we didn't want a scheduling system, but how were we going to be able to accomplish this? Well, we only could do so much. So this amendment that we got right here, it says, all shaded blue right here, no later than September 1st, 2020, the Department of Social and Health Services, Department of Children, Youth and Families, the Healthcare Authority, and the Department of Labor and Industries must purchase, right here it says must purchase, in-person spoken language interpreter services directly from language access providers as defined in RCW, or through limited contracts with scheduling and coordinating delivery organizations, or both. So it's one or the other, or both. And then each state agency must have at least one contract with an entity that provides interpreter services through telephonic and video remote technologies. Sorry, in the last part of this right here, it says, nothing in this section precludes the Department of Labor and Industries from purchasing in-person spoken language interpreter services directly from language access providers and from directly reimbursing language access providers. So what we did there, was a strategy to say, hey, until we figure this out, we need to be able to get paid bi-weekly, like we keep on, having right now, the way it happens. We need to, ensure that we bill LNI directly, that nothing, in this bill, prohibits LNI from doing so. And so just give them the option, because before this amendment, it was going to be a scheduling system or else. Okay, now with this amendment now, LNI has an option to look at different avenues. Okay, let's see, we could do a combination of in-person, some delivery organizations, or both. So that's what they're looking at right now. And this is pretty much the core of what they're going to be basing their decisions on. Now, a lot of people freak out. They're like, oh, they're going to choose a scheduling system. You don't know that. You know what I mean? We don't know that. They know that we don't like a scheduling system because they held focus groups. We went to Olympia. We actually argued about this. And this is the reason why we got these amendments. Now, there was another amendment that had to deal with agency owners, because remember, this bill was aimed to actually, reform the LNI system, and the LNI system has to be reformed because, as you all know, there is a lot of corruption, intimidation, bribery, abusive behavior from interpreters, some agencies, to the patients and to other interpreters and providers. So that's not a secret. We're not naming names. It happens with interpreters and agencies alike. Fraud, and so LNI knows about this, and it's not the first time that interpreters, providers, patients have complained. So it was bound to, have some changes. Now, as you see right here, we got this amendment that had to do with the word owner, because agency owners, if this would not be clarified, would be suffering from, the language in the bill. So right here it says, if you read with me, amends the definition of language access provider to allow owners of language access agencies or brokers to be considered language access providers. So a lot of people, when they don't agree with me or what we're doing with Whoopsie, they say, oh, you want to you guys want to destroy agencies, stuff like that. No, we never intended to do that. LNI has the power to do whatever they want when it comes to contracting with interpreters or agencies. But we certainly made sure that everybody was protected in this bill, as you see in this amendment. And in the final form of the bill, you could see that too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the final form of the bill right here. So you see it, okay? Again, because I closed it by mistake, but it's going to be right here, page 3, okay? So if you see right here, language access provider means any independent contractor who provides spoken language interpreter services for state agencies, injured worker, or crime victim appointments through the Department of Labor and Industries or Medicaid enrollee appointments, or provided these services on or after January 1st, 2009 and before June 10, 2010, whether paid by a broker, language access, or a state agency. Now, this was the part that was going to be negative for agency owners. It says right here, language access provided does not mean, you see that word, an owner. We requested to be, taken out. So, because if he would say a language access provider does not mean an owner, then an agency owner would not be considered an interpreter, which would be trouble, right? So we actually struck that word out. And so instead, we left a manager. So now it reads, language access provider does not mean a manager or employee of a broker or a language access agency. So that's, that's not all the amendments, but that's, pretty good summary of what we were able to accomplish. And then there's a picture right here with representative Democratic representative, Noel Frame, and you see the 3 interpreters that were there from 2 weeks to a month there, fighting for these amendments. Many other people helped. We were there, full time pretty much. And then nothing would have been possible if we had not met with this guy, Dennis Eagle, which is the lobbyist from Whoopsie, the union. He sat down with us and the lawyers, and we were able to introduce these amendments at the last minute. And then the union talk started flourishing. So that was a refresher as to what happened. So what happened after that? We started the union movement and all that, but then LNI hired Susan Campbell, which is a person that she has been working for LNI for a lot of years, but in some other areas, as we understand. So they hired Susan Campbell to actually, implement these changes that come with the bill and these amendments. Now, with all new amendments, they have to interpret the law the way it is written, and so that's why they held focus groups. And if you see right here, this is an agenda for the focus group that Susan Campbell held in Tequila. I was there, a few people were there, a couple of agencies were there, a couple of interpreters too. And I was encouraged when I attended this meeting, but at the same time I was a little discouraged because I didn't see a lot of people there. I only saw, probably 10, 12 people, 10 to 15 people maybe, even less. I don't remember exactly. But the thing is, a lot of people were afraid. They didn't want to go and say what they thought was wrong with the system. But actually, we had a good conversation. And one thing that we all agreed upon is that we do not want a scheduling system. That's something that we just don't want. So Susan Campbell, after this, met with some providers. And they went on to analyze after that what these recommendations were going to be. And if you see right here, it says it really, really, really clear right here. This legislation requires LNI to purchase in-person spoken language interpreter services for workers who are injured and victims of crime by September 1st, 2020, directly from language access providers or through contracts with scheduling and coordinating delivery organizations, or both, okay? And then they have to have some sort of telephonic or video remote technologies. Another thing that, they make very clear right here is that something that this bill doesn't cover is testing and certification are included in the bill, but not under the authority of LNI. But are not under LNI's authority. I know I made a video about that, but I just wanted you to see that even LNI recognizes that when it comes to the certification process, they can't do anything. They can only, issue provider numbers if you do have an active certification. That's pretty much what the law says right now. So with that said, now LNI is actually recommending, and they're going to be announcing this decision. Okay, uh, they're going to come up with a partial decision, and that's all I wanted to show you right now as of this moment. And this decision, it's going to be something that it's not going to encompass, from what we hear, the whole. Okay, so when they announce this decision in a couple of weeks, we don't know what it is, but what we do know is it's going to be something partial. So it's not going to be the whole reform, the whole change or not change, because they have to decide what they want to do. So they will give us a little bit. Okay, we have decided this much. And then after deciding this much, this is what we want to recommend about this portion. And so from what we know, after that, they'll hold some focus groups with interpreters, providers, to get feedback and to actually, see if some suggestions or recommendations have to, be implemented or changed. So there you have it. So it's going to be a partial decision. Don't freak out. I hear some rumors, some agencies getting, antsy, some interpreters, not knowing what's going to happen. I say that, we have to hear from them directly, okay? Like, WFC is a good resource because, WFC is an organization that they have a relationship with LNI, okay? They have helped me become authorized by DSHS for the workshops. I have helped and collaboration from some people in LNI to help me with the workshops when it comes to the billing workshop and become a provider. So they are a good resource. Even though LNI is not telling anybody directly what those decisions are going to be, but WFC is an organization that has a relationship with LNI, so the lines of communication are open. So I'm just telling you this because nobody knew it was going to be a partial decision, but WFC knew because of that relationship. Even though they can't know per se what that partial decision will be about, but at least they know it's a partial decision. And because I'm working with them with, helping organize this union and the workshop, so now I'm sharing this with you guys. So I hope that this information has been informational, and let's be united, because at the end of the day, this is what's happening. We don't have a union yet, and so LNI is making decisions and just letting us know what's going to happen, because we don't have representation yet. I know that's another conversation, but I wanted to throw that out there so we think about this. I know that we have some differences when it comes to philosophical ideas and ideology and all of that, but at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, which is to be working under the LNI system. But make no mistake, we want to be working directly. We don't want to schedule a system, but you have to make no mistake. This wild, wild west style of the LNI interpretation system is going to change whether we like it or not. We can't have interpreters competing with each other using unethical means. And that means bribing providers, buying plane tickets for a provider, buying receptionists for appointments, intimidating interpreters, making them sign bogus contracts, and threatening to go to court if you come to any of my clinics and all of that, and I hope that nobody gets offended. Whoever does it, that's for you, without mentioning names. We have good agencies that provide good services, and we have good and bad interpreters as well. So I think the whole thing needs to be revamped, and we just hope that when they revamp it, it's going to be to everybody's benefit. Now, not one person has all the right answers, so that's why we have to be united together, put our petty differences aside, and come and work together. So this is the end of this video. I'm going to have, pretty much a lot of useful links in the description box of this YouTube video. It's going to be on Facebook and YouTube. And then one last thing, we're going to be continuing with the workshops. The workshops are going to keep on happening. We're almost at the end of the calendar when it comes to this cycle, but remember that after April 6th, the cycle resets for all of us interpreters, and then we're going to need again 16 credits, 4 ethics credits every year. So we're going to be back with the workshop. So keep yourself informed. If you have any questions, I'll leave the contact information in the description below. Thank you.